Hello everybody, hope you're all doing well. My name is Steven and this is the Storytime channel. Today we have some entitled parent stories and our first story of the day is by Stargazer728. Christian, holier than thou, entitled mother is back. This time, I'm not so nice. To give some background, every Christmas me and my wife do our own version of Secret Santa where we find some family in our church or surrounding community that is very financially strained and might not be able to afford Christmas gifts that year and buy gifts for everyone in that family. This has been the 4th year we've done this, and quite frankly, it's a very rewarding experience to deliver holiday joy to a family in need. We mainly find our families secretly by asking church friends if they might know of a family that is going through a tough time financially. Most of the time, the family either knows a Secret Santa is helping that year or is completely blindsided Christmas morning with special delivery, although due to COVID, we plan to load the presents on their doorstep and ring the doorbell as we get the family's reaction from the sidewalk. Now, onto the story. We got our information for our 2 separate families that needed help this year, and me and my wife were planning out which gifts to buy for both families, gift budget, etc. During our brainstorming session, I got a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. When I picked up, it was a kid's voice informing me that my mother would like to talk to you. I could hear the kid hand the phone to someone else, and then I was greeted by a familiar voice, the entitled mother of the story, aka friend's aunt.
Hello, OP.
Me, eyes growing wide and silently cursing under my breath. Entitled mother? To what do I owe the pleasure?
Well, I'm glad you asked. My nephew mentioned during a family Zoom call earlier that you were buying Christmas gifts for random strangers this year and how commendable your charitable giving was.
Me mildly flattered at my friend's words, but at the same time wishing he just kept his mouth shut. Well, he is correct. I am doing a Secret Santa this year.
Perfect, that's why I wanted to call you.
You know of a family in need?
Yeah, me.
One thing I should point out about entitled mother that I learned from my friend is that she used to be married to a rich guy whose family owns some oil fields. From what I understand, when they divorced, she didn't get ownership of the family assets. Despite this, she still stuck with the guy with alimony and gained 70% custody of their child. Back to the story. You need help?
Yes, you see, I really wanted to get my son a PS5 for Christmas, and since my gift budget is already strained this year, I figured you could step up and help me bring him some holiday joy.
Me already suspecting that something is very suspicious here. What do you mean that your gift budget is already strained?
Well, my car broke down and I decided to buy a new one.
Well, that's unfortunate. Hopefully your new car is reliable.
Sure is. I decided to treat myself to an early Christmas gift and bought one of those brand new Cadillac Escalades.
I just so happened to have my Chromebook in front of me during the call, so I used it to look up the MSRP for a new Escalade, which had a starting price above $75,000. At that moment, a very cold anger had started to arise in me, much akin to my previous encounter with the entitled mother. Here she is again trying to take advantage of me again just to get a PS5 for her kid while she blows money on a Cadillac. She could have bought a much cheaper car and could still have money left over for multiple PS5s and could still have money left over to buy gifts for multiple families. My wife could see that I was not in a good mood and looked concerned as I walked into my office. I may have been nice to the entitled mother before, but this time I was going to give her a piece of my mind.
So, going back to the PS5, if you could get one with a few games…
Me cutting her off. No.
Excuse me?
I will not be buying your son a PS5 for Christmas.
But he really wants one. Are you going to deny a kid his wish?
Let me tell you something about my charitable giving. It goes to families that barely have enough to get by at the end of the day and are staring down the barrel of choosing between rent or Christmas gifts, not entitled people like you who have poor spending habits. Entitled mother scoffs.
Why, I never. How dare you?
Look who's talking. You obviously have more than enough money to purchase an SUV that costs more than a blue-collar income. Yet here you are trying to bum a free PS5 off of me all because your budget is strained. If your budget is so strained, then why don't you sell that overpriced car and buy one yourself?
You should watch your tongue. You know, the Bible says that younger generations should be subject to your elders.
This pushed me over the edge. At this point, I was fuming and had decided that it was time to burn a bridge with entitled mother. You know what? Maybe if you spend more time actually reading your Bible instead of thumping it all the darn time, you'd actually be more thoughtful of people other than your freaking self. Heck, maybe if you'd be the one doing the Secret Santa. Don't you ever call my phone again. Clearly, you are someone who is not worth wasting my time on. I'd wish you a Merry Christmas, but maybe even that's too good for you. Hangs up. I blocked the number and proceeded to text my friend to make sure his aunt never contacts me again. Oddly enough, I didn't need to take time to calm down. Telling entitled mother off was actually quite cathartic. Let me ask you guys, are you the kind of person that can just kind of blow up and release all your steam just giving your mind to this entitled mother and not really need to calm down afterwards? Or would you be the kind of person that, after having a conversation like this, you might be on edge for a little while? Let me know in the comments down below, because I feel like it might be a little bit of both for me. I'd probably still need to come down and let some anger out. Our next story is by Give Me a Break Life. My entitled grandma's claim to inheritance, which could have ruined me and my siblings' future. A little context. My family is a pretty well-off family. My mom and dad has garner money and land for their business and are able to send me and my two siblings to a local international school. The majority of the land they bought were in my mother's name because of a stupid reason totally unrelated to this story. Remember this point. My mom, however, passed away with a brain tumor before I could even finish high school. 5 years ago, but to this day I'm still affected by that event. Before she passed away, Dad felt that something around the conflicts regarding inheritance would occur, so he tries to clear everything, even visiting the land registry every day for a whole month, and transferring the inheritance into the name of him, me, and my siblings. Now, as you all will probably know, when there's a lot of inheritance involved, your fam's about to get busy. Enter entitled grandma, e.g., my deceased mom's mother. There weren't really any issues to begin with. My dad promised to let entitled grandma stay in the home he and my mom built. The home was registered in my dad's name. He even provided her a monthly payment of approximately $650 USD. Might not sound much, but in my country it was enough to live comfortably, considering she isn't responsible for rent and other bills. Everything, apart from some minor stupid inheritance claims here and there, seems fine for about 3 years. The 4th year is when crap gets down. Around that time, I was doing a master's degree in the UK, which I recently just graduated at the time of this post. My sister's doing an undergraduate in Australia, and my youngest brother is about to graduate high school. As it's always been both my parents' goal to send us abroad for education, you can pretty much guess the financial burden my dad has now. Entitled grandma, however, decides that it's none of her concern and decides to sue. Apparently, according to the lawsuit document, she is entitled to all the land that is registered in my mom's name prior to her signing it off. The house my dad is letting her live in, along with other stuff worth over millions in US dollars. You might be thinking, what the freak? But didn't your mom sign the inheritance document? This is where it gets more freaked up. Despite my dad sending my mom to be treated in one of the best and most expensive private hospitals in the country and splurging nearly $1 million in medical treatment, entitled grandma still claims this person has attempted to indirectly murder my daughter and intends to hog all the inheritance to himself. These included blurting out excuses like tricking her during a not fully conscious state. It's brain tumor after all. Feeding her insanitary green water during her homestay period, or even intentionally instructing the doctors to not fully treat my daughter. What makes my blood boil even more was that entitled grandma did not care about the fact that me and my siblings, her grandkids, are still financially dependent on my dad for our education and livelihood and wanted my dad put in jail on the charges of inheritance scam. The details of the lawsuit and stuff is complicated, but just to give you a summary, my dad has the upper hand, albeit few loopholes exist, as all the documents have been signed and the patient documents did not support any of her stupid claims. He, however, decided to settle the lawsuit in court by saying he will pay entitled grandma $500,000 USD in cash, allowing her to stay in that home for the rest of her life and allowing her to collect rent on one of my dad's small condos for the rest of her life also. This is on the condition that entitled grandma cuts all family ties with us and never brings the issue of inheritance to court ever again. When I asked my dad why he decided to settle by giving entitled grandma money, even though entitled grandma filed a lawsuit against him without regards to his financial burden and him still having the upper hand, he simply just uttered, "Your mom loved entitled grandma very much, and I promised her I would never hurt her." The aftermath? The lawsuit was settled about a year ago. If you're wondering about what happens after, my mom's family is completely a mess. Last I heard, entitled grandma has already burned through all the money and is now receiving death threats from her group of relatives as they want in with the share. Now she's begging to see the grandkids she loves so much. Talk about karma. OP's dad was more than kind to entitled grandma. It's sad that cut all family ties stipulation has to be in there, but it has to be in there. And obviously, entitled grandma only wants to talk to the grandkids she loves so much so she can try and mooch further, which sadly you've got to deny. And our final story of the day is by Madison Rhodes. Entitled parents claim that me and my friends killed a rabbit. Hey everyone, so this actually happened like a few weeks ago. Backstory. Because of coronavirus, me and my friends have been going on walks together on the weekend because we're getting quite unfit as we're no longer allowed in the school gym. We go to school together, so it doesn't matter if we're with each other anyway as long as we're staying outside. I will also be using fake names for privacy reasons. EP is entitled parent, EK is entitled kid, me is me, friend 1 is Emma, friend 2 is Alice. Me and my friends went on a 3-hour walk up a local public high-terrain area. That day, it was really muddy and slippery, so we fell over a few times and got slightly muddy. There was also a river nearby where we were. Because of how slippery the mud was that day, because there was high rainfall the day before, we nearly fell into the river a couple of times as it was close to the trail we were walking up. Since we were slipping close to the edge a few times, we squealed as we didn't want to get cold and soggy. As we got higher in the area, close to the top, we saw entitled parent and entitled kid standing next to a tree with binoculars. At that point, we were listening to music, which was a vibe by the way. Entitled parent starts waving at us and we thought they liked the music, so we started dancing and she made a face which made her look really angry. We then walked up to her and entitled kid. "I saw you," entitled parent said. "Okay," replied Emma. "I saw you kill that rabbit," entitled parent repeated. "Sorry, but are you sure that was us? We were nearby the river trying not to fall in," I said. "No, stop lying, we saw you. You can't kill animals here unless you own this land," she shouted. "Whoa, lady, calm down. We didn't kill any rabbits. In fact, I haven't seen any today," said Alice. "You kill the rabbit," said entitled kid. She looked around 4 or 5 years old. "We're leaving. We didn't kill any rabbit," replied Emma. We then left. In the distance, we heard entitled kid screaming, "I'm calling the police," while waving her hands frantically in the air. We whispered whatever and kept on walking around the trail. After 20 minutes, the police never showed and we assumed she wasn't going to call the police as she was in the wrong. 10 more minutes had passed and as we were going to leave the area, a police car pulled up with 2 officers inside. They stopped us and asked us if we were the ones supposedly killing rabbits. We told them no, but the lady kept saying she saw us and heard the rabbits screaming. "It's them," entitled parent shouted from behind us. She must have been following us. After 30 minutes of talking it out with the police, they decided to let us go as the lady didn't have a clear story and kept changing it and being controlling towards the officers. Thankfully, our parents weren't called and everything was well. The lady was charged for wasting police officers' time, and thankfully a situation like this hasn't happened again. Although I do have many entitled parent stories in the past. Alright, so which one of you kids screeching sounded like a dying rabbit? That'd be like the prime thing for a group of friends to forever try and make fun of each other over, figure out which one was the dying rabbit. Which one of you guys were so convincing that you made the entitled parent think that there was a dying rabbit somewhere that we killed? They have to know which one of them sounded like the dying rabbit, right? I just wish that the entitled parent, upon hearing that it was them just screeching from trying to not fall into the river, would have accepted that rather than doubling and tripling down and calling the police and, well, having to pay up for their stupidity. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So, which of these stories was your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing and turn notifications on if you haven't so you'll never miss an upcoming video. Any little thing that you do helps the channel grow so much more. Whether it's commenting, subscribing, or just watching the video, thank you all so very much for supporting me right here on the Storytime channel. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all next time, right here on the Storytime channel.